Okay, thank you, Doc. Um, I'm presenting on assessing the effectiveness of trade unions as employee voice in the port and maritime sector of Ghana. My case study is on the Ghana Port and Harbour Authority. Okay. So this is my presentation outline. First of all, I'll speak about the problem statements, motivation for the research, profile of targeted firm. I'll give an expected outcome of the research and also how the research will contribute to study. And then the last part is my references. So this problem study focuses on voice, employee voice. And then over here, we are explaining what employee voice has been perceived to mean in organizations and what literature we have on employee voice. We are saying that most literature or most studies have focused on management, reputation, typologies, firm innovation in small and medium firms, employee work engagements, abusive supervision, and so on. And also, the study adopts the agency theory. What we are talking about here is with the agency theory, we try to use the principal agency relationship to explain how union help or assist employees in an organization to ensure that their needs are met by management of the organization. Also, methodologically, most studies use either qualitative and quantitative approaches, but this study is going to use the mixed approach to understand the views of experts and then the larger stakeholder in ports and maritime sector. Specifically, we are talking about the Ghana Port and Harbour Authority. That's the case study. Motivation of the study, we envisage or we realize that employee voice has a great role in human resource, because we all know that the human resource is the main, let's say, capital that an organization has, and that is what the organization will use to achieve its expected outcome. So we say that for an organization to have competitive advantage over other industries, you need to manage employees very well. And so I thought of the fact that what motivated me to take this topic or to use or to research on employee voice or union representing employee voice is the fact that the employee contributes mostly to the organizational outcome and productivity. And so if you don't consider them, or if management fails to consider them in decision-making, they may rather be pushing maybe the employees to do what they are not maybe ready to do. And so also you realize that employees on their own are most of the time not willing to come out with, let's say, opinions because they fear that they will be victimized. And so here we are saying that the union, as representing employee voice, will give confidence to the employees to be able to speak through their union representatives. So here I gave a brief profile of the Port and Harbour Authority since it's the case study. And I spoke about the Port and Harbours Authority being a statutory corporation established under the Ghana Provisional National Defense Council Law, PNDC Law 160. The authority manages and operates the seaport of Ghana and various business units in collaboration with a number of private firms and private providers in the area of vessel handling, stevedoring, transfer, storage, receipt, and then delivery of containerized general cargo. Our business units currently comprise of the Port of Tema, Transit Saharan Liaison Office in Burkina. We are talking about Tema International Maritime Hospital, and also the Port of Tema and the Port of Keta.
Hello, are you there? Are you there?
Hello?
We cannot hear you. Can you? Yeah, we can hear you now.
Oh, okay, maybe my network.
I can hear you. I can hear her clearly.
Oh, okay, then go ahead. Then it was my side. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I'm on the expected outcome of the research. And what I found was that this research will help improve employee voice mechanism in most organizations within the port and maritime industry. The industry would then appreciate the benefit of engaging employees in participation in decision making. Also, trade union Congress, the port and maritime industry can leverage on some of the findings, or maybe all of the findings, to formulate policy and programs for their members. And the literature gaps field will prefer some additional literature to the body of knowledge, particularly on employees in the port and maritime sector in Ghana and maybe beyond. Contribution of the study to practice. So this research findings would sensitize employees to actively promote the establishment of unions in non-public enterprises. Since the Port and Harbors Authority kind of regulates both private and public industries, or let's say public organizations. And also the challenges for unions is to encourage their members to regard the involvement of full-time officials in organizational decision-making as providing a strong employee voice at the organizational level helps the organization to have competitive advantage. And also industrial relations and HR managers would promote the perception of employee voice through the provision of training for employees and line managers. Managers will also receive insights to be receptive of employees' concerns in decision-making and policy enhancement commitments. Thank you. So these are the references.
Okay, so let's take it from the expected outcomes. Yeah. Here, what they are asking is what you will expect the outcome of the study to be. Now, the idea is that when you start a research, you have something in mind. It might not necessarily turn out to be so. Okay, so whilst you are researching into employee voice, what are you expecting at the end of the day? Are you going to find out that there is a more structured way of system in the port that allows employees to have voice? Or are you expecting to see the otherwise? That is one. Now, if you look at your objective, so when you are talking about the expected outcome, then you can go to your objectives, because the objectives are what you expect that at the end of the day you will achieve. Do you get it? Your objective for research person. Can you hear me?
Yes, please.
So when they say expected outcome, and this is for all of us on the if you are presenting, this is a proposal, expected outcome, they are linked to your objective. So that's what you have targeted to achieve. So it's likely that you will not achieve that, but they are asking that, what do you expect? If you want a smart way, you can phrase your objective, okay, to be the expected outcome. Do you get what I'm saying? So if I know your objective, maybe give me one of the objective. I can rephrase it as an expected outcome. Maybe if you can go through your work itself and mention one objective or research question, and then let's use it to couch an expected outcome, so you get it clear.
Okay, all right. So the first research objective is to determine if trade unions in the Ghana Ports and Harbour Authority can influence managerial decisions.
So my expected outcome would have been that the study expects that employee voice is able to influence managerial decisions. Now do you get it?
Yes, please.
And you can do that for the others. All right. So that's what you do, so that you don't go out of the scope within the objectives that you have set. Okay. So when they say expected outcomes, actually the objectives are the outcomes of the study, right? So when they say expected at the stage of proposal, they are trying to go into your head to see that you, as a researcher, do you have something that you are expecting? You understand? Either based on the objective, or are you looking at something else? So if you state your expected outcome to be out of the scope of the objectives, then it means that what you are seeking to achieve, you are not actually going to achieve it, because it is out of scope of the objective. So a clever way is to use the objective to coin the expected outcome in proposal presentation. And you see expected outcome always when you have to present a proposal. Does that make sense?
Yes, please, it does.
Anyone has a question on this? Hello. So let's also go to your research contribution. That should be the next slide. Anyone has a... So the contribution also, you can structure the contribution also with the objectives. And the reason why it is so is simple. So in project work, what are we doing? We develop a topic. In our minds, the topic, we want to solve a problem. Okay, so the topic is a broader problem that we want to solve. And then we say we need a statement, a problem statement. The problem statement is actually the gap that we are identifying in that topic. All right. So with the problem statement, it helps us to establish the gap in three perspectives. If it's a quantitative study, the theories, if there are gaps in the theories that has been used in previous study, and that you want to use this study to fill the gap. And when we talk about theory, theories are concepts, the concepts and their relationships that is used to explain a phenomenon. So an example is that there's a theoretical economic theory. Why is it economic theory? The economic theory talks about the income levels of people, their gender. It talks about their status. It talks about their religion, etc. Now, these variables you see, gender, economic status, salary, and other things that I mentioned, These are all variable or concepts that are in the economic theory. And the reason why it is theory is that they have been able to relate, one, the gender of a person to his or her salary. They are able to relate the gender of a person to his or her religious background. They are able to relate the gender of a person related to the person's level of education. Do you get it? So once that link is established, and there are studies that has been done to establish that relationship, then tested in other countries and other jurisdictions, it comes out as a theory. So when any time you mention economic theory, we are applying economic theory in a jurisdiction to explain a phenomenon. So if we want to explain a relationship between somebody's gender and social status or whatever, we can pick economic theory to that jurisdiction and explain. Do you get it? So in a problem statement, we want to see that other theories have been used, but has it been used in this area to explain a phenomenon? Because we believe that if it is being used in that area, then it's going to churn out some findings that are very exclusive to this area. And one, it might confirm the original relationship that the theory has already stated, or it will refute it. That would generate other discourse or discussion in the future. So in a problem statement, you want to see a theoretical gap. You also want to see a methodological gap. In other words, if there are approaches or methods that have been used in other studies and it has not been applied in a study in the jurisdiction that you are doing, or the concept area that you are using, or the topic area, then you can do that. And then from the methodological findings gaps, we come to the empirical findings. When we say empirical, evidential, based on evidence. So anytime you apply theory and method, you generate what? Evidence. Do you get it? So since you have applied the method, a particular theory and a particular method, it is believed that you get an exclusive findings. Okay, so these are the three gaps you are looking at. So in the problem statement, you establish the gap. And actually the problem statement also now takes you to the specifics areas in the topic that the topic wants to deal with. Even in the problem statement, they can tell you that, okay, for the purpose of the study, we are dealing with employee voice in the maritime sector. But this study is concentrating or focusing on Ghana, employees of Ghana Ports and Harbor Authority. It is the problem statement within which you do that, okay? Because the topic is saying maritime sector. So you can state in the problem statement and then even deal with specific stuff that you want to deal with. So the problem statement is like a story you are telling. And you have to tell the story to be able to establish the fact. So the topic is broad. The problem statement now takes the thing into specifics. Now, when you are done, then now we are saying that, so for this problem, I'm setting some milestones. And those milestones are what we call objectives. And at the standard of a degree or master's and PhD, we are looking at minimum of 3 objectives and maximum of 5 or 6, right? So at this level, minimum, and these objectives are going to look at the problem area, the specific areas that has been discussed, and give targets to those areas to be achieved. Once those targets are set, then you will have to go and look for literature that will support you to achieve those targets. Then we come to literature review, right? Literature review. And this one, we are looking at only literature that relates to the targets we have set. We don't go outside that. Only literature that relates to those objectives or targets that we have set. Now, out of the objectives, in some jurisdiction, if we are doing a purely quantitative study, they set objective and then they set what we call hypothesis, right? Now, in some hello?
Okay, so I responded.
Is that you responded what?
I just responded to you.
Okay, so you am I off or you are hearing?
We are hearing you.
Okay.
Yeah, hearing, yes.
So for some studies, they deal with objectives and research questions alone, right? Predominantly, when you are doing qualitative studies, that's how they go. In a purely quantitative study, it is objectives and hypothesis, or objective research questions and hypothesis. It depends on what the researcher wants to do. But most quantitative study is the objectives and hypothesis that has been set. Now, where the hypothesis doesn't come and they are using research questions, then the person is rather doing some sort of descriptive study, right? He's not doing the high impact one where they are doing t-tests, z-tests, correlation. They are not doing that. But when they are doing purely descriptive study, they want to use research question. But when they are doing high-end quantitative study, then you see hypothesis. Okay. But anytime you set an objective and you are setting research question, the research question are questions that you are setting to achieve the objective. So for each objective, there is at least one or more research questions that are meant to achieve that. Because it is the research questions actually that you use to develop your questionnaire or your interview guide. So that any question they ask, it will answer those questions. Any question you have asked in your questionnaire, it will answer or all be grouped under one research question that will also then achieve the objective that you have set. So you see the hierarchy. Okay, so that's how it works. So when you choose literature, the literature should either be based on the objective or research question. Anyone works because they are all in line, or even the hypothesis. So if you pick objective one or research question one, if you are smart, you can look for about 5 papers and then review under that. You pick the second one, 5 papers, you review. So if you have 3 objectives, you have review 15 papers. And these are papers that are targeted to achieve, so you're doing something about voice. This time it's a voice in a different sector, but it relates to that. So you are bringing that in. So when you come to your literature review, what are you doing? The preliminary literature review, you are just telling your audience the papers that are relevant to the study and the papers that you are going to critique. Okay. So at the proposal level, you just mention those papers and the brief findings that are going to be contribution to the study at the proposal level. But at the deeper literature review, you do an extensive work where you talk about the purpose of the study, you talk about the methodology, you review the findings, and in some case, limitation. And then when you are done, then you answer the question, and so what? And so what is that? What do you infer from this literature? And how does it contribute to the study? So for instance, if I said that, okay, Annette 2020 studied employee voice, that is the purpose of the study. Then Annette used a qualitative approach using interviews to collect data from responses from respondents. That is what the methodology. Findings from her study show that employee voice has an impact on managerial decision. That is findings. The study therefore recommends that management should institute structures that can help employees air their grievances and boss so that they will get the benefits from that. Is the recommendation. So when I'm done with that, I've done the review, but I have not critiqued it. I've not critiqued it. I've just done the normal, exposition. So now the question is, and so what? So these are the two things I can do. One, I can say that in another related study, or these findings confirms the study of now 2020, who also found that employee voice has a significant impact on organizational progress or something. Okay, so what have I done? I've linked this study to another study. Then I can come again and say, take another paper that is actually in contrast with this one. Then I say that in contrast to these findings, Cynthia also found that employee voice had a negative effect on organizational performance. Now I'm going to make my claim. Now, the current study will address this controversy. And this controversy is that one part says that employee voice has an impact on what? Organizational performance. Others say that it's not. All right. So what controversy? This current study will address this controversy by employing, then I bring the methodology, maybe a mixed method, okay, a mixed method to churn out some findings relative to the study. So what have I done? I have picked two papers that are for saying that employee voice has an impact on organization. And I've picked that one which is against. And I've said that my study is going to address this controversy. In other words, whether indeed employee voice has an impact on negative impact or positive impact. So when I've said that, what I can even continue to say that the current study, that is the first and the second, probably use qualitative approach. Now, the third one that is in contrast with them also probably use a quantitative approach. So to address this controversy, I'm going to use a mixed study. Do you understand? To create that synergy. To create that synergy. Please, can we? To create that synergy between the quantitative and the qualitative to address those gaps identified in the reviewed literature. Okay, so what have I done? This is typically what we call literature review. So I have critiqued it. People say, this guy found out this, and then the other guy found out that this, and they put full stop. So what? How is it relevant to the study? How does it inform, how does it help the study to achieve, its objective? So in literature review, remember that whatever we review, we are going to use that same review to confirm our findings in chapter 4 or reject the findings. That is why in chapter 4, when you have said that the current study found that there is a correlation between employee voice and organizational performance, this findings is consistent with the works of Annette 2020, who stated that employee voice has an positive impact on organizational performance. You understand? Another study by Na also indicated that employee voice have a negative impact on organizational performance. Now, this study used a qualitative study, a qualitative approach, as its methodology. and then got these findings. Okay, given that the current study has used a mixed study to churn out these findings, it appears that the finding of INET 2020, is valid and collaborates this study, and for which reason the current study has generated the same. So what I've done is that I have shut down the other paper that said employee voice has again negative impact. But I need to make that justification. So you see that it's the same literature that I've lifted to the chapter 4. And taking a position now with the findings that I've gotten. Okay. So you do the literature review. When you are done, then now you come to the methods. How are you going to collect and analyze data? Which research design are you going to use? And this one, you look at previous works that has been done, and you look at methodological gaps. And that is that same thing you did in a problem statement. Okay. Now you are coming to chapter 3. You are using the proposal session methodology. You are using that, carrying that same thing, only the methodological gap to find out, okay, this guy used quantitative, this guy used qualitative, this guy used correlational, this guy used predictive. You try to find the gaps and then come out with what? A method. Sometimes you replicate a method that has been used in anticipation that, because the method is good, that you get a different finding because that method, they use a different theory, and you are also using a different theory. Sometimes it's even the same theory, but the environment is different, and you just want to see if it will churn out the same results. You get it? So I'm just giving you a constellation of what you are doing from the topic, all right, to methodology, then the findings, and then the recommendations. So at the proposal stage, these are the things that are going through your mind. And you have not done the research to the end. But you need to understand these stages. Because to tell you the truth, if your findings, okay, if your findings that what you found doesn't address a research question that has been asked, then you have your study has validity issue. Then it means that you use a different instrument. Okay. It means that, so in research, it's like a patient going to a doctor. And I can explain. The patient who is going to the doctor will say that I've come for diagnosis. So the doctor will ask you some few questions, isn't it? So if the doctor asks you the question, then those questions that the doctor is asking you is actually the discussion of the problem statement, right? It's actually the discussion. But because he is not clear, what the doctor will say is that he will write that suspected malaria parasite in the blood. That thing that the doctor has written is what we call the objective, right? And once he writes that, then the doctor will say that, "All right, lab for you." That lab that he has written is actually the methodology, because they are going to use some instrument to test, the malaria parasite. It is at that stage that the person, if he is supposed to do a test for malaria and he goes to use an apparatus for typhoid, then that validity issue comes in, because now he has used a wrong instrument and you are going to churn out for what? A different result. It's the same thing in research, saying that you are doing a qualitative study, but in your method of data analysis, you say you are doing descriptive analysis, because descriptive analysis is for quantitative. And that's what we do in research. So if the doctor is killing somebody, it means that it's a wrong diagnosis that the lab technician has done. Of course, if it is wrong, the doctor is going to prescribe medication based on that diagnosis. So if the methodology has an issue, if you don't do proper alignment, you don't use the proper instrument, then you are likely to get findings that are out of gear. So that's actually what happens. Okay, so when you have used the correct instrument and they have tested, they will bring the result to the doctor. So methodology done, now we have results. So now the doctor has the results. So what is the doctor going to do? He's going to give recommendations. Then we get to chapter 5. But the recommendation can be based on only the results. Okay? So if you go back to the objective that he said, suspected malaria, and then the result is that there are some malaria parasites in your blood. So that objective that was set is being what achieved, that there are malaria parasites in your system. So now he's going to recommend. He says that you are going to take artesunate amodiaquine 2-3 times daily. It's a recommendation. And most of you, when you are doing research and you get to recommendation, then you are telling stories. It doesn't make sense. There you are giving a directive. Because take is what? An instruction. Okay, and you use strong, verbs, active verbs like should, must, because you are giving a recommendation. So that's the whole thing about this research stuff that we are doing. I just want you to get this basis so that it will guide you. You have the insights when you are doing presentations, so you know how these things are linked, and that is going to help you. So, Annette, I think that I saw something in your intro or problem statement. Let me just correct it. It is maritime, one word. It is not marine time, maritime. So if you see that.
Yes, I saw that.
Maritime. Maritime. And then if you have any back for her, please give to her. But I think that you have the confidence, you need more confidence, right? I like the way you explain the theory, but you need more boost in that. Say it with, and one thing you can do is also, first of all, explain what the agency theory talks about. So first of all, you say the principal agency was propounded by this, and the proponent of the theory states that there is this relationship between a principal and an agent in a business transaction where the principal, mandates the agent to act on his stead. When you begin to do the discussion this way, okay, you are defining it. Then you say that in the context of this study, the employee is seen as what the principal who has given authorization to the union as an agent to act on the employee's behalf in negotiation with what? Management. You get it? Then you have just killed it. So in the context of this study, this theory is used to explain this relationship. It's done. I like your motivation for the study. That is also good. So I think if no one has any feedback for you, this should be okay.
Thank you, Doc.
All right. No one has. So Annette, I'll not disclose her identity, but she's with a business school. Where she works, I'll let you know later. Anyway.
Doc, I have a question.
Please do.
So I figured out from the explanation you gave that maybe writing the proposal or presenting it is more like writing a report because of the linkage of the findings and recommendations that you said.
Okay. I like the way you have. I know you write a lot of reports, so you've seen it. The truth in the matter is this. When you understand research, you will be a good report writer. You will be a good book writer. In fact, any expository writing, anything You should be able to write. Do you get my point?
Yes.
The reason why at the master's level it's mandatory that you, even at a degree, it's mandatory is that if you look at the degree, the research component has about 9 credits. All other subjects have maximum 3 or 2. But the research component either 6 or 9. That is to tell you that it is huge. So those who dodge research and do not appreciate it are going to have issues. Even if you have help from somewhere, okay, you would have to get yourself immersed in this, because after that, it's really going to give you a bigger leverage of whatever. In fact, it's going to open your eyes into so many things. Your way of reasoning is going to change. The way you see things are going to be different, because the literature review itself is going to give you perspective. Do you get it? It's going to give you perspective. So that is what it is. I just wanted to bring this in for you to appreciate that the more you get into this, the better you become as a manager in managing so many things. The reason why we're having challenges in this continent is that people don't like research. Most companies in the US, Barclays and other people, they invest almost 20% of their profit into R&D, research and development. I don't know any Ghanaian-owned company that would do that. They will eat all. They'll eat that money, they will share. But these guys know that what drives the organization is actually research. And there's a saying that when you decide not to research, you die, because there was no improvement. And so this that the extent to which we have to take research, that's serious. And you can write all the exams, and I can tell you, when you finish and you put yourself on the scale, your weight will be the same. The only change will come as a result when you do your research. And I can ask you a question. The number of papers you have read, tell me that you have not learned something. Annette, the number of papers you have read so far.
I've learned a lot. Yes.
And we have learned more than reading lecture notes and answering questions. You understand? You have learned more than that. So the research is very, very important. And the reason why people don't know why, today another group came to see me. They also want something solved for them. And the man was telling me that, Charlie, 6 years, but I've not been able to. The research is not easy at all. And I said, yes, but you will love it when you get yourself into it. So let's just take it serious. And those who are here are either those I'm supervising or those that I'm mentoring. So if anyone has any question, you can ask. What I have explained today on the research stuff, I've never done it anywhere. So I'm going to show this video. I don't know. This is the first time I've explained it this way. I mean, those on the Cynthia, is that correct? And then are they really?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Have I ever explained this way before?
Anita's screen is still on.
Yeah.
Yes, my screen is still on. Should I stop sharing?
Yeah,
okay.
We are done with you.
Okay, so let me stop sharing, please. Thank you.